Hello from Mindset Daily, wishing you a day full of health, peace, and happiness. Thank you for watching the Mindset Daily channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe to support us. Thank you so much.
Have you ever wondered why some people seem to attract endless struggles while others draw success with ease? What if the difference isn't luck, but something far more powerful? And here's the most intriguing part. It may all begin in your own mind. Imagine your mind as a vast garden, always silent, always growing. The unsettling truth is, it doesn't care whether you plant seeds of success or failure. It will faithfully grow whatever you feed it. Without even realizing it, you might already be nurturing the very fears you hope to escape. What if the invisible force shaping your life is not chance, but your thoughts? The question is, what seeds are you unconsciously planting? In just a moment, you'll discover how to master this powerful law. What you focus on, you attract. You become what you think about. Think of it again. Your mind is a garden that shows no preference. Seeds of hope, abundance, and success grow just as easily as seeds of fear, doubt, and failure. Yet one thing is certain. Whatever you plant, it will grow. This invisible law governs every man and woman. It declares that what you focus on, you attract. Thoughts are never idle. They are magnets, alive with energy and form, shaping not only how you feel, but also the very circumstances of your life. Picture the man who constantly thinks of poverty, speaks of scarcity, and believes the world is unfair. What does he draw to himself? Misery, lack, and endless struggle. Now contrast this with someone no more talented, yet who fills his mind with visions of opportunity, abundance, and self-belief. Suddenly, prosperity, support, and success appear as if from nowhere. This is no accident. This is no trick of luck. It is the natural result of what I call definiteness of purpose combined with definiteness of thought. You are either consciously shaping your life or passively accepting the weeds that grow in your mental garden. I once mentored a young man who illustrates this truth. He believed he would never amount to anything because his father told him so. Day after day, he focused only on failure. His head hung low, his shoulders slumped, and his words were filled with "I can't. It's impossible, and too hard." One day I told him plainly, "Son, if you keep watering those weeds of failure, don't expect roses to bloom." Something shifted in him that day. Slowly, he began to replace the weeds with seeds of faith. Each morning, he declared, "I am capable. I am destined for more." His world changed, not instantly, but steadily and surely. Today he stands as a man of influence, wealth, and peace. The lesson is simple yet profound. If you want to change your life, you must change the thoughts that dominate your mind. Focus on health, and health will find you. Focus on opportunity, and opportunity will knock. Focus on kindness, and friends will gather. Focus on growth, and the doors of success will open wide. Remember, nature does not care whether you plant poison or medicine. It only returns what you sow. So ask yourself now, what seeds are you planting in the garden of your mind? Listen closely. No one ever rises above the image they hold of themselves. Not once, not ever. You may work harder than anyone, possess the finest education, even the best skills, but if your self-image is small, if you see yourself as unworthy, incapable, or unlucky, life will always mirror that image back to you. I have sat across from men whose voices trembled as they confessed, "Mr. Hill, I just don't believe I am destined for success." And I always gave the same reply. That belief alone is the first and greatest obstacle you must conquer. Understand this. Your subconscious mind accepts every thought, every word, and every belief you give it as truth. It does not argue or reason. It simply accepts and begins working to make that belief real. Picture the man who believes himself to be unlucky. He walks with his head down, blind to the doors of opportunity. He hesitates in every choice. His handshake is weak, his voice without conviction. Is it any wonder that chances slip away? His belief becomes his reality. But let me share a story of transformation. There was once a timid shoe clerk, overlooked by all. One day he made a decision. I will become a man of influence. I will become a leader of men. Each day, he filled his mind with affirmations of strength, ability, and faith. Over months and years, his posture straightened, his voice grew deeper, his handshake firm. Today, that man commands respect, runs his own enterprise, and is sought after for his wisdom. The truth is clear. The outer world is only a mirror, reflecting the beliefs you hold about yourself. If you believe in greatness, the world rises to help you achieve it. If you believe you are doomed, the world agrees. So I challenge you, look into the mirror. Who do you see? More importantly, who have you chosen to become? Change that inner image, and everything on the outside will follow. This is the power of definite goals. Focus creates fortune. Just as a ship without a rudder is tossed by every wind, a man without a goal drifts aimlessly at the mercy of luck, circumstance, and the opinions of others. Nothing, and I mean nothing, will shape the quality of your life more than the goals you set. When your mind has a definite destination, it becomes a magnet, drawing the people, resources, ideas, and opportunities you need. This is the invisible hand of focus at work. I have sat in rooms with the wealthiest industrialists of our time. And do you know the one thing they all shared? They knew exactly what they wanted. Not vaguely, not someday, but clearly, precisely, and without doubt. I recall a man who once came to me complaining he could never catch a break. I asked him, "What exactly do you want?" He hesitated, stumbled, and finally said, "Well, I just want to be better off." I shook my head. The world does not respond to vague wishes. It responds to definite plans. Your mind is like a heat-seeking missile. When given a precise target, it adjusts, calculates, and locks on with laser focus. Doubts weaken, distractions fade, and the path forward becomes clear. Consider Andrew Carnegie, the great steel magnate. He began with nothing, but from a young age he carried one singular goal: to become the richest man in the world. It was not out of greed, but to prove the power of intention and use his wealth for the good of mankind. And so he did. His focus was relentless. He wrote it down, reviewed it daily, and aligned every thought and action with that vision until it became reality. The lesson is simple. If you wish to be successful, wealthy, or fulfilled, you must be definite about what that looks like. A vague wish leads to vague results. A precise goal creates a precise outcome. Write it down. Repeat it daily. Burn it into your mind until your very soul believes it. Focus creates fortune. It always has, and it always will. The unshakable power of faith and belief unlocks the door. Let me impress upon you a truth that has stood the test of time. Faith is the starting point of all achievement. Without it, no plan can succeed. With it, no obstacle is insurmountable. Faith is not mere wishing. It is not idle hope. Faith is a deep, unwavering conviction that what you desire is not only possible, it is inevitable. It is the inner certainty that stirs unseen forces into action. I have watched men of humble beginnings rise to astonishing heights, not because of greater talent or wealth, but because they carried a fire of faith no setback could extinguish. There was once a poor farmer's son who dreamed of becoming a great speaker. His peers laughed, his teacher dismissed him. He had no fortune, no connections. Yet every morning he stood before the mirror and declared with conviction, "I am a speaker. I am a leader of men." He practiced, persevered, and with time, his words moved nations. Why? Because his faith never wavered. Faith turns obstacles into stepping stones. Where the fearful see failure, the faithful see opportunity. And here is the secret. Faith must be practiced daily. It is not something you gain once and keep forever. It is a discipline, a muscle that grows with use. Each time you affirm your goal, each time you visualize its completion, each time you speak as though it is already yours, you strengthen the mighty force of faith. And that, my friend, makes you unstoppable. With persistence and the refusal to quit, you cannot be defeated. There is a simple rule that governs success more than talent, luck, or education, and it is this: the man who refuses to quit cannot be defeated. Persistence is the master key that unlocks every door. Show me a man who has achieved greatness, and I will show you someone who has tasted failure, disappointment, and rejection, yet rose each time with greater determination. I vividly recall the story of Colonel Sanders. At an age when most men retired, he carried nothing but a recipe for fried chicken and a dream. He went door to door, facing rejection over 1,000 times. But he persisted, and eventually, one person said yes. That single yes grew into an empire. Why? Because he refused to quit. Persistence does not mean blind stubbornness. It means adjusting your sails, refining your methods, but never abandoning your goal. It is the quiet whisper that says, try again, even when the world insists you give up. Life will test you. It will ask, do you truly want what you claim to desire? These tests are not meant to punish, but to strengthen, to separate the committed from the merely interested. When you persist, unseen forces begin working in your favor. Doors once closed swing wide open. People who once ignored you become allies. Opportunities that seemed impossible suddenly reveal themselves. So I say to you, be relentless, be unyielding. The man who persists holds in his hands the power to shape destiny itself. Discipline is the silent architect of success, the bridge between thought and accomplishment. Without it, even the finest plans remain idle dreams. Discipline is not punishment. It is the greatest gift you can give yourself. It quietly builds your future. A man may desire wealth, health, or happiness, but desire alone means nothing without the discipline to act. I have met many who spoke of great ambitions, to become scholars, inventors, leaders, yet they lacked the daily discipline to follow through. And so, they remain trapped in the land of someday. Discipline may be simple in theory, but it is mighty in practice. It is the strength to do what must be done, whether you feel like it or not. It is the quiet voice that says rise before dawn when the body craves rest. It is the steady hand that reaches for the book instead of the bottle. It is choosing the hard right over the easy wrong. I once knew a man named Samuel. Born into hardship, every odd was against him. But Samuel had one advantage no one could take away: discipline. He rose before the sun, studied his craft, saved his earnings, treated his body as a temple, and spoke only of possibilities. Over time, discipline became mastery, and mastery became prosperity. His wealth was not born of one grand event, but of 10,000 small decisions, each rooted in discipline. And discipline, my friend, always compounds. Each day you practice discipline, it grows stronger. Like a muscle, it may be weak at first, but with repetition, it becomes unbreakable. The man who disciplines his mind controls his destiny. The man who neglects it is forever at the mercy of circumstance. Temptations will always be there. The easy path, the shortcut, the distraction. The world whispers, rest a little, delay for a while, give up. But the disciplined man answers firmly, not today. My future demands more of me. So I ask you, what small act of discipline can you begin today? Perhaps it is rising at the same hour each morning. Perhaps it is setting aside a portion of your earnings. Perhaps it is choosing words carefully, speaking only of what you intend to create. Remember this, discipline is freedom. It frees you from chaos, regret, and the empty life of those who drift. When you master yourself, you master your fate. And then there is the unseen power of environment. Who you surround yourself with shapes you. A truth as old as time remains. A man becomes the average of the 5 people he spends the most time with. Your environment is never neutral. It either lifts you up or pulls you down. If you surround yourself with men who speak of opportunity, who focus on solutions, who pursue growth, you cannot help but rise to meet their level. But if you surround yourself with doubters, with those who mock ambition and dwell in complaints, you will slowly, almost without notice, become just like them. I remember visiting a small town early in my studies. There I met 2 brothers, identical in birth, but opposite in fortune. One had become a prosperous merchant, the other a bitter drunkard. Curious, I asked them separately about their lives. The prosperous brother said, I chose to spend my days among men who discussed ideas, trade, philosophy, and wealth. The other brother confessed, he fell in with people who spent their days complaining about what the world owed them. There is no mystery. Birds of a feather flock together. The conversations you join, the habits you witness, the standards around you slowly become your own. A weak environment drains your energy, infects your thinking, and normalizes mediocrity. A strong one inspires, challenges, and demands growth. This doesn't mean abandoning everyone you know. It means choosing carefully who gets to shape your thoughts. Seek mentors. Spend time with people whose lives reflect what you aim to achieve. Go where ambition is respected, integrity upheld, and excellence expected. Great fortunes are rarely built alone. Behind every success stands a mastermind group. A circle committed to lifting each other higher, exchanging ideas, holding one another accountable, sharpening each other like iron sharpens iron. So reflect. Who do you dine with? Who do you confide in? What conversations fill your evenings? Do these voices build you or quietly break you down? Surround yourself with greatness, and greatness becomes inevitable. Adversity is the one companion in life that never discriminates. It does not care about wealth, status, age, or privilege. It comes uninvited to all, whether king or beggar, elder or youth. But the difference between those who rise to greatness and those who fall into despair is not the adversity itself, but how one responds to life's storms. Some are crushed under the weight, while others transform the burden into fuel that propels them forward. Resilience is the invisible armor that allows people to endure, recover, and flourish in hardship. It is not only about survival, but learning to thrive against the odds. It is the quiet voice in the darkest moments whispering, "This too shall pass." It does not shout or boast, yet it remains steady even as chaos swirls. Those who possess resilience know that hardship is not the end, but often the beginning of something greater. One story still inspires countless dreamers. A young inventor named Thomas saw his factory consumed by fire one cruel night, years of labor and dreams reduced to ashes within hours. Any ordinary man might have collapsed, cursed fate, or walked away defeated. But Thomas was no ordinary man. As the sun rose over the charred remains and smoke curled into the sky, he stood firm and declared, "Now I can begin again, free of the mistakes of the past." True to his words, within a year he rebuilt his enterprise from the ground up. He emerged stronger, smarter, and more successful than ever before. His triumph was not in avoiding failure, but in rising magnificently from it. This is the essence of resilience. It is not a gift given to a select few at birth, but a skill, an inner strength, cultivated and sharpened through experience. Each trial becomes the forge where resilience is tempered. Every time you rise instead of surrender, your inner steel grows thicker, tougher, and harder to break. With each disappointment comes an opportunity not to shrink, but to expand, to become more than you were yesterday. The truth is timeless. Obstacles are not barriers meant to stop progress. They are chisels shaping us into people capable of handling the rewards we seek. Without resistance, there is no growth. The mighty oak grows strong not in calm weather, but under the relentless wind that tests it. So too does the human spirit gain strength through life's storms. The river does not carve valleys through force, but through patient, persistent resilience over time. Nature itself mirrors this law, teaching us that endurance leads to greatness. So when adversity stands before you, the question must change. No longer ask, "Why is this happening to me?" But instead, "What lesson does this hold? How is it refining me for something greater ahead?" Hardship is a harsh but honest teacher. It reveals hidden reservoirs of strength we might never have known if life had always been smooth. It pushes us to innovate when the familiar path is gone. It demands that we grow, adapt, and rise. So when the inevitable storm appears at your doorstep, do not shrink. Do not let fear dictate your next step. Stand tall, lift your head high, and face it with the quiet confidence of one who knows that resilience is the most powerful tool ever used by those who achieve greatness. When you embrace it fully, you become unstoppable. And then comes the fire of passion, the true fuel for an extraordinary life. If there is one undeniable force that separates those who are merely successful from those who become truly extraordinary, it is passion. Passion is the invisible current that breathes life into effort, turning tedious labor into joyful creation, obstacles into opportunities, and ordinary people into timeless legends. Without passion, success feels hollow, like a victory that tastes of ash. With passion, every endeavor gains meaning. Each day becomes a journey filled with purpose, and life itself takes on a vibrancy that cannot be faked or manufactured. Passion is not a luxury reserved for a lucky few. It is a necessity for anyone seeking a life of depth, fulfillment, and lasting impact. Without it, daily routines become nothing more than mechanical repetition, a monotonous march from one paycheck to the next, from sunrise to sunset, stripped of spark or significance. But when passion enters that same routine, everything changes. Suddenly, waking up feels like answering a call to adventure. Every task, no matter how small or mundane, becomes infused with meaning. It becomes a brushstroke in the masterpiece of your life's work. Over the years, I have spoken with titans of industry, world-renowned artists, inventors who transformed entire fields, and thinkers whose ideas reshaped society itself. Despite their different paths, they all spoke of the same driving force: a fire within. It was never just about money, fame, or recognition. Their true motivation was something deeper: the desire to create, to contribute, to leave behind something that mattered. Their work was not merely a means to an end. It was an expression of their very soul. I recall a conversation with Henry, a humble craftsman whose skilled hands shaped wood into objects of remarkable beauty. His workshop was modest, hidden on a quiet street, yet his creations were sought after by the finest clients across the country. When I asked what sustained him through long hours and painstaking precision, he smiled and said, "I could no more stop building than I could stop breathing." Money followed as a result of his dedication, but what truly fueled him was the joy of creation, the satisfaction of bringing something into existence that had lived only in his imagination the day before. That is passion in its purest form. Passion is a force that benefits not only the one who holds it, but everyone it touches. It radiates outward, drawing others in, inspiring them, lifting their spirits, and creating a momentum that no obstacle can easily derail. Passion has the uncanny ability to turn what seem like insurmountable roadblocks into manageable challenges. Where others see dead ends, the passionate see detours, lessons, and new possibilities. But passion does not sustain itself without effort. Like a fire, it must be tended. It must be fed with curiosity, with learning, with the pursuit of mastery. It thrives on challenges that stretch your limits and withers in the presence of complacency, negativity, and the suffocating trap of good enough. If doubt is allowed to linger, if the mundane chokes out your curiosity, the flame dims, and the joy of your life's work begins to fade. The question then becomes essential. What stirs your soul? What craft, pursuit, or calling would you give yourself to, even if no one ever paid you a cent? When you move toward that answer, something extraordinary happens. Energy multiplies, time bends, and hours slip away unnoticed because you are completely immersed in what you love. Opportunities appear in the most unexpected ways, as if the universe itself conspires to support those who dare to follow their passion. And always remember this timeless truth: the greatest tragedy is not in failure. Failure, after all, is only a stepping stone on the path to growth. The true tragedy is not failure. It is succeeding, even by the world's standards, but doing so without passion. To wake each day to a life that looks successful on the outside, yet feels hollow within, is the most painful fate of all. So live fully. Seek the work that ignites your spirit. Feed that fire with all you have, and let it guide your choices and your legacy. A life led by passion is not only well-lived, it is a life that leaves the world forever changed. Now, the master key: gratitude. Gratitude unlocks the door to abundance. If there is one principle that magnifies every other law of success, it is gratitude. Simple, profound, and unwavering. Gratitude is not merely saying thank you when someone does you a favor. It goes far beyond manners or courtesy. It is a state of being, a way of seeing the world that transforms every experience. It is the lens that shifts how you interpret your life, your circumstances, and your possibilities. When a man lives in gratitude, the world opens to him in ways others cannot comprehend. Where most see obstacles, he sees opportunities. Where others notice what is lacking, he recognizes what is abundant. I recall meeting a wealthy landowner whose fortune stretched as far as the horizon. His lands were vast, his wealth undeniable. On the surface, anyone would envy him, yet there was no joy in his eyes. His words dripped with bitterness as he complained of taxes, the unreliability of workers, the unpredictability of weather, and the burdens of managing his sprawling estate. Despite all he owned, he moved through life feeling as if something was always being taken from him, as though the world owed him more. In that same town lived an old shoemaker whose circumstances were modest at best. His workshop was small, his income humble, yet he radiated a joy impossible to ignore. Intrigued by his cheerful spirit, I once asked, "How is it that you are so content with so little?" His face lit up with a warm smile, and in a calm voice he said, Each day I wake and give thanks. For the strength in my hands that allows me to work, for the love of my family that fills my home, and for the craft itself that puts food on our table. I may not have much by the world's measure, but my heart is full. In that moment, I realized something profound. The shoemaker, though lacking material wealth, was far richer. Richer in spirit, richer in joy, richer in the currency that truly matters. His days were not weighed down by endless dissatisfaction, but filled with a quiet, resilient happiness no gold could ever buy. This is the transformative power of gratitude. It shifts your focus from scarcity to abundance. It turns your heart away from what is missing and toward the wealth already present in your life, whether in relationships, health, opportunity, or the simple gift of being alive. Gratitude is not denial of hardship. It does not ignore pain or difficulty. Gratitude does not deny hardship. Rather, it acknowledges it while choosing to focus on what is good, what is right, and what is possible. What many fail to realize is that gratitude carries a tangible, almost mystical ability to attract more of what you appreciate. It aligns your mindset with the natural laws of prosperity. When you live in gratitude, your mind opens to solutions. You become more creative, more resilient. You draw goodwill from others, for people are naturally drawn to those who radiate positivity and appreciation. Gratitude silences the insidious voices of fear and doubt. The two cannot coexist. You cannot be deeply fearful and truly grateful at the same time. One always drives the other away. Imagine beginning each day with gratitude, not for perfection, but for life's simple, irreplaceable gifts. The air in your lungs, the strength of your body, the clarity of your mind, the chance, however small, to take one more step forward. And then picture ending each day the same way, giving thanks for the lessons learned, the progress made, the laughter shared, even the challenges that, though uncomfortable, are shaping you into someone stronger, wiser, and more capable. This simple practice changes everything. Gratitude multiplies the good. It acts like a magnet for more of what you appreciate. When you tune your spirit to recognize abundance, you send a signal not only to the world, but to your subconscious that you are ready for more. More growth, more opportunity, more success. Gratitude becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, where appreciating what you have creates space for even greater things to arrive. Too often people chase success under the illusion that more money, more possessions, more accolades, will finally make them grateful. But they have it backward. Gratitude is not the result of success. It is the foundation of it. It is the soil from which every victory grows. Without it, even the greatest achievements feel hollow and incomplete. With it, even the smallest wins feel monumental, and the journey itself becomes a joy. So let gratitude be your constant companion. Let it guide your thoughts, shape your choices, and fill your days. A grateful heart unlocks not only happiness, but a life of true abundance. A life where success is measured not just by what you gain, but by how deeply you value it. And now we come to the creative force of imagination, the place where success begins. Within every human being lies a mighty power, often dismissed or underestimated. Yet it has quietly shaped every fortune, every invention, and every empire the world has ever known. That power, my friend, is imagination. It is not idle fancy or childish daydreaming, as many believe. Imagination is the sacred workshop of the mind, the invisible forge where ideas are shaped into form, where visions gain substance, and where the intangible becomes tangible. Before a single stone was laid or a nail driven, every bridge across a river, every skyscraper touching the clouds, every world-changing enterprise first existed in imagination. There was once a young man bound to the dull routine of a clerical job, surrounded by co-workers who had surrendered to mediocrity. While they wasted hours in gossip and complaints, he sat quietly with a simple notebook in hand. On its pages, he sketched plans for a machine that did not yet exist, a creation born from his vision, conviction, and the sheer power of imagination. His peers mocked him, dismissing him as a fool chasing fantasies. They could not grasp what his mind saw so clearly. They lacked the ability to look beyond what was and imagine what could be. But the young man remained steadfast. Years passed. The mockery never ceased, but neither did he. He refined his sketches, improved his designs, and pressed on through setbacks and doubt. In time, the machine he once envisioned not only came to life, but revolutionized an entire industry. His fortunes soon followed, along with the respect of those who once doubted him. Such is the power of imagination. The world today belongs not to those who simply accept it, but to those who dare to envision how it could be. Every city, every business, every technology, every piece of art or music, all began as a whisper in someone's mind, a fragile seed of thought nurtured until it broke through into reality. Understand this. Your imagination is a personal preview of life's coming attractions. But here's the warning, it must be directed. A mind left to wander aimlessly drifts into idle fantasy, distraction, and wasted potential. An undisciplined imagination is like a rudderless ship, delivering only illusions. Yet when it is harnessed with purpose, strengthened by intention, and fueled by burning desire, imagination becomes the true architect of success. It holds the power to reshape destinies. Every person must cultivate two distinct forms of imagination. The first is synthetic imagination, the ability to take existing ideas and reorganize them into practical, useful combinations. Most innovation, problem-solving, and business improvements spring from this type of thinking. It asks, how can this be done better, faster, or more efficiently? The second, far more elusive, is creative imagination, the spark of genius, the ability to tap into something greater than oneself, into infinite intelligence. Here breakthroughs emerge. Answers seem to arrive out of nowhere, whispered in moments of stillness, inspiration, or deep focus. And the question remains, how can one sharpen this extraordinary faculty? The answer is both simple and profound. Feed your mind without end. Study relentlessly. Read, observe, and question the ordinary. Make it your daily habit to ask, what could be improved here? What opportunity hides where others see nothing? Take deliberate time each day for reflection, whether in solitude or wandering through the corridors of possibility. In those quiet moments, imagination does its best work. Think of Thomas Edison, a man whose very name stands for invention. His genius wasn't just technical skill, it was imagination mastered. When asked how he created the electric light, his answer was simple yet profound. I imagined it first. Then I found a way to make it real. That is the formula revealed. Every achievement, every advance, begins first in thought before taking form in the world. Imagination is the springboard of all success. Nurture it, guide it, and wield it with discipline, and there will be no limit to what you can create. Neglect it, let it fade, or allow the world's noise to drown it out, and you surrender your future to the imaginations of others. You become a character in someone else's story instead of the author of your own. So ask yourself honestly, what vision have I let wither in the shadows of doubt? What bold possibility still waits for me to claim it? Dust it off, bring it back to the light, and nurture it like a precious seed. For imagination is never mere fantasy. It is the very foundation of creation. Imagination is the first indispensable step toward reality. What you dare to envision today may be what you hold in your hands tomorrow. Yet imagination alone is not enough. The silent builder of destiny is habit. Look closely at anyone who has achieved something remarkable, and you will find their success was not born from a single dramatic act, nor from luck or chance. It came from the quiet, unseen accumulation of small actions, repeated day after day. These habits, steady and persistent, shape the course of a life far more powerfully than any sudden burst of effort ever could. No man wakes up one morning wealthy, wise, disciplined, or deeply respected, just as no man collapses into ruin overnight. Both triumph and tragedy are the inevitable result of countless small decisions, minor choices, and unconscious patterns repeated over months and years. These patterns, whether uplifting or destructive, become the architecture of a man's life. I recall the story of Henry, a simple clerk in a modest office. To the outside world, his life looked ordinary, indistinguishable from his colleagues. Yet Henry held a private discipline, a small but mighty habit that quietly set him apart. Each evening, when the day's work was done and others turned to idle distractions, gossip, or complaints about the monotony of life, Henry chose a different path. He spent his evenings quietly with a stack of books on finance, economics, and business strategy. Night after night, he studied, reflected, and absorbed knowledge that compounded within him like silent interest. For years, no one noticed his effort. There were no immediate rewards, no applause, no sudden transformation. But habits are patient. They demand consistency, not recognition. Then, one day, opportunity appeared. A small business came up for sale. While others saw only risk, Henry, prepared by years of quiet study, recognized its potential and seized it with confidence. Today, Henry owns a thriving enterprise, respected in his community and admired for his success. To outsiders, it may have seemed sudden, but to Henry, it was simply the harvest of seeds planted long ago. Good habits are the most faithful servants a man can possess. Once established, they work tirelessly on your behalf without constant supervision. They become automatic allies in the pursuit of success. Rise early, and you gain hours others sleep away. Save consistently, and wealth grows silently in the background. Speak kindly, and goodwill accumulates in every relationship. Seek knowledge daily, and wisdom compounds in your mind. These habits quietly build a fortress of success around you, unseen, yet unshakable. But remember, the same law applies to poor habits. Just as good habits build, bad habits destroy, with equal patience and certainty. Neglect is a habit. Delay is a habit. Gossip, complaint, wastefulness, these too are habits. At first, their effects seem trivial, almost invisible. But left unchecked, they quietly erode potential, drain your strength, weaken your confidence, and blur your focus. One day you awaken, trapped in a life you never consciously chose. A life not built by intention, but by neglect. The tragedy is that most people inherit their habits by default, absorbed from parents, friends, neighborhoods, or the mood of society itself. Few ever stop to ask, does this habit serve me? Is it moving me toward the life I want? Or quietly leading me away from it? Without such reflection, they become prisoners of routines never chosen deliberately. Yet the formula for mastery is simple, though profoundly powerful. Begin with one small habit, just one. That, if practiced daily, will bring you even a step closer to your desired future. Commit to it without exception until it becomes as natural as breathing. Then add another and another. Layer by layer, you are not just changing behavior. You are reshaping identity. In time, habits harden into character, character forms your nature, and your nature shapes your destiny. The one who learns daily becomes wise. The one who saves daily becomes wealthy. The one who speaks with kindness earns love and respect. What you do occasionally shapes moments. What you do habitually shapes your entire life. Never forget this truth. Success is not something you occasionally do. It is something you become. And you become it through daily, quiet, repeated practices that align with your purpose. Success does not come from bursts of willpower, but from habits sustained over time. So examine the architecture of your days. What habits govern your mornings, your evenings, and the spaces in between? Do they reflect the future you say you want? If not, change them. Not tomorrow, not when life feels easier, but now, in this very moment. In the end, no man rises to the level of his ambitions. He falls to the level of his habits. And that brings us to the power of decision. Indecision is the silent partner of failure. If there is one trait that divides the successful from the unsuccessful, it is the ability to decide. Not merely to choose when the path is obvious or safe, but to act in the face of uncertainty, to step forward when the outcome is unknown, to commit when others stand frozen in hesitation. Life, whether we realize it or not, is an endless series of crossroads. Some seem small, barely noticeable. Others loom large, their consequences reaching far into the future. Every day presents forks in the road. It is the man who acts, who chooses his path with clarity and resolve, who commands his destiny. The one who hesitates, waiting endlessly for certainty, insisting every variable be accounted for before moving, soon discovers that opportunity does not linger. It is a fleeting guest, knocking briefly before moving on to the next door. How many lives have been wasted at that threshold, paralyzed by what if? How many fortunes never created? How many dreams never realized? Simply because a man could not decide. Through the years, I have studied the greatest men of my generation, Carnegie, Rockefeller, Ford, and without exception, they shared one habit. They made decisions swiftly. Their resolve was not recklessness, but a deep understanding that life rewards the bold. They were deliberate, but never sluggish. Once their minds were set, they did not retreat into doubt, and they rarely reversed course without true cause. In contrast, the unsuccessful, those forever grasping at the edges of opportunity, displayed the opposite. They moved slowly, weighed options endlessly, and even when they finally committed, they second-guessed at every step, undoing their own progress before it could bear fruit. I once knew a gentleman whose intellect was nothing short of brilliant. His insights were profound, his grasp of business sharper than most, yet he remained trapped in a prison of analysis. He studied every opportunity from every angle. Should he start the business? Buy the property? Accept the partnership? While he circled his thoughts like a man pacing a cage, others, perhaps less educated, perhaps less gifted, stepped forward, acted, stumbled, adjusted, and ultimately prospered. His tragedy was not lack of ability, but lack of decision. His potential was never destroyed by failure. It was suffocated by inaction. Indecision is not harmless delay. It is fear in disguise, the whisper of doubt asking, what if I choose wrong? What if I fail? What many fail to see is that refusing to decide is itself a decision, one that hands control of life to chance, to circumstance, to the will of others. And more often than not, failure to act is the surest path to failure itself. There is a mysterious truth that any bold man discovers. When you decide, truly decide, forces beyond your sight begin to move. Circumstances shift, resources appear, and people you could never predict step into your path. The universe itself seems to respect the man of decision. Nature favors movement. Nature rewards action. So the question arises, how does one develop this decisive power, this strength of will that separates the actor from the observer? The answer, like any skill, lies in practice. Begin with the small. Decide what time you will rise each morning, and then rise at that time. No matter how you feel, decide and follow through. Choose what knowledge you will pursue. Pick a book, and finish it without abandoning it halfway. Decide who belongs in your circle, those who uplift or those who drain you, and stand firm in that choice. Every small decision made with conviction adds weight to the muscle of your will. Over time, that muscle strengthens. Soon the bigger choices, the ones that shape careers, fortunes, and legacies, no longer intimidate but inspire. And when the moment comes to face them, remember this unchanging truth. No choice will ever be perfect. The man who waits for flawless conditions, who insists on every question being answered, condemns himself to endless waiting. Life does not reward certainty seekers. Progress belongs to those who act amid uncertainty, who accept that corrections are part of every journey. Even the oak does not wait for the sky to clear before it rises. The river does not wait for permission to carve its path. Nature moves forward, and so must you. So let me ask, what decision have you delayed? What opportunity still knocks faintly at your door, growing weaker with each day? How long will you let doubt steal your time, your potential, and the life that could be yours if only you dared to choose? Remember this. Indecision is the thief of time and the graveyard of dreams. It is the slow suffocation of potential. The cure is simple, though not always easy. Decide. Decide now, not tomorrow, not when the moment feels perfect. Decide, then act, and watch the world reshape itself around the power of your will. And this brings us to the mastermind principle, the unmatched power of collective genius. For no man, no matter how gifted, intelligent, or ambitious, achieves true greatness alone. Behind every fortune, every groundbreaking invention, and every empire built from nothing, there stands an invisible force, a mastermind. It is the union of minds working in harmony toward a shared purpose, creating a power far greater than any one person could summon alone. The mastermind principle is not a theory, but a universal law of achievement, as real and unshakable as gravity or electricity. Its essence is simple. When two or more minds unite in perfect harmony and definite purpose, something new emerges, an unseen intelligence greater than the sum of its parts. It is as if the universe itself responds to this alignment, releasing a flow of ideas, courage, energy, and inspiration that could never exist in isolation. This is not merely conversation or casual collaboration. It is something deeper, almost spiritual, the birth of a collective consciousness that sparks creativity, channels solutions, and strengthens each member against the inevitable trials of great endeavors. I saw this pattern time and again while studying the most successful men of my generation. Consider Henry Ford and Thomas Edison. These giants, leaders in entirely different fields, instinctively understood the power of the mastermind. They meant not to waste hours in idle chatter, but to trade ideas, challenge assumptions, and sharpen the clarity of their visions. The problems that might have crushed one individual became manageable, even simple, when examined under the combined intellect and energy of united minds. From their meetings came not just small improvements, but giant leaps, solutions and breakthroughs that pushed entire industries forward and altered history itself. Yet the power of the mastermind goes beyond strategy sessions or problem-solving discussions. There is something almost mystical at work. When minds align with a definite goal, a current of creative energy flows as if drawn from a higher source. Courage ceases to be a fragile, personal trait and becomes an abundant, shared resource. Where one man might falter in doubt, the collective faith of the group lifts him. Where a solitary thinker might stall at a dead end, the sparks of insight within the mastermind ignite new paths, revealing opportunities once hidden. But here lies a vital truth. Not every gathering of people qualifies as a true mastermind. The principle works both ways. Surround yourself with complainers, cynics, gossips, or doubters, and the force produced is not progress, but decay. Instead of clarity, you find confusion. Instead of bold action, fear takes root. Instead of building one another up, the group drags itself into the mediocrity of the masses. Harmony is the essential ingredient. Without trust, mutual respect, and a shared purpose, no true mastermind can exist. Discord, jealousy, or hidden agendas poison the group's energy, turning what could have been a force for greatness into a well of wasted potential. That is why every man who seeks to rise beyond the limits of solitary effort must ask with brutal honesty, who sits at my table of counsel? Are these individuals people of integrity, vision, and determination? Do they uplift me, hold me to a higher standard, and challenge me to grow, to refine my thinking and stretch beyond what I once believed possible? Or are they subtle anchors, weighing me down with their doubts, their fears, and their small-mindedness? To create a true mastermind, you must be intentional. Seek out those whose strengths complement your own. One may bring financial acumen, another strategic insight, another mastery of craft, and another the gift of communication. The goal is not to gather clones of yourself, but to build a coalition of diverse minds, each contributing their unique perspective toward a clearly defined mission. Meet regularly. These gatherings are not casual social visits, but sacred assemblies dedicated to growth, progress, and accountability. Share openly, without fear and without ego. The walls of pride must fall if the collective mind is to rise. Encourage one another, yes, but also challenge one another. Hold each member accountable not only for their commitments, but for the highest vision of who they can become. I can say without hesitation that the insights I share and the principles I teach were not born from solitary reflection alone. They were forged, refined, and clarified through countless hours spent in mastermind groups with the greatest minds of my era. It is no exaggeration to say that my success, and the success of every towering figure I have studied, owes as much to the collective power of the mastermind as to any single effort. No matter how intelligent, talented, or driven you may be, your potential is limited when you act alone. But when you align your mind with others in harmony, united by a definite purpose, your potential does not simply add, it multiplies. Obstacles shrink, solutions appear, and energy expands. Together, men become mighty in a way no individual could achieve in isolation. So never underestimate the power of the mastermind. It is not a luxury reserved for a fortunate few. It is a necessity for anyone who seeks more than mere existence. It is the key that unlocks the vault of collective genius, the lever that moves mountains. And when guided by integrity, faith, and harmony, it becomes the most powerful force available to any man who dares to dream of greatness. There is one final truth, one last secret that unlocks everything I have shared with you. It is so simple that many dismiss it, yet so powerful it quietly shapes every life. That truth is this: life does not give you what you wish for, it gives you what you expect. Wishes are weak and fleeting, little more than silent hopes whispered when no one is listening. But expectation, that is a force. It is an active command, a declaration woven into the fabric of your reality. Life responds not to idle wishing, but to expectation. Faith and expectation are twin engines that drive a man forward. Where faith lives, expectation follows. Where doubt lingers, negative expectation takes root. Walk through life expecting failure, betrayal, and disappointment, and life will oblige, reflecting the very energy you project. Doors will close, opportunities will vanish, and circumstances will conspire against you, because you rehearsed failure in your own mind. The universe, like a faithful servant, simply fulfills that vision. But walk in faith, with your head high and your spirit aligned with belief that good is coming, that success is near, that opportunity is already waiting, and life responds differently. The right people appear. Ideas arrive seemingly from nowhere. Obstacles dissolve, revealing hidden paths. Success, like a loyal companion, begins to follow at your heels. This is not superstition, nor the wishful thinking of the naive. It is a law as absolute and unchanging as gravity itself. Your subconscious accepts your expectations as commands, without argument, without question. Whether those commands build or destroy, lift you to greatness or pull you into mediocrity, the subconscious does not judge, it simply obeys. Plant seeds of doubt, and barriers will rise. Plant seeds of belief, and bridges will appear. I recall a businessman whose every step was haunted by failure. He entered negotiations already convinced they would collapse. His voice wavered with hesitation, his handshake was weak, his eyes darted nervously. His words were filled with phrases like, "If this works," or "I hope it goes well," signals to the world that even he didn't believe in his own success. Time after time, his expectations of failure were fulfilled with ruthless precision. In contrast, another man I knew carried himself entirely differently. His back was straight, his words firm, his gaze steady, and his tone filled with certainty. When he entered a room, the atmosphere seemed to shift to make space for his presence. He expected success, not arrogantly, but confidently, as a farmer expects the harvest after planting seed. And just as naturally, success followed him. His ventures thrived, conversations turned into contracts, and his efforts consistently bore fruit. Life itself seemed eager to match his expectations. Understand this: expectation doesn't only shape the future, it shapes you. It guides every decision, influences every action, and colors every interaction. It even changes how others see you. People are drawn to confidence as surely as they are repelled by doubt. A man who expects success carries himself with confidence that commands respect, invites collaboration, and earns trust. The same man, if consumed by doubt, sends out signals of weakness that anyone can sense. Yet the greatest impact of expectation isn't outward, it's inward. It is the steady programming of your subconscious mind. Whatever message you repeat, consciously or not, your mind accepts as law. Expect failure, and it will quietly sabotage your efforts to fulfill that prophecy. Expect success, and it becomes a loyal servant, scanning for opportunities, sparking ideas, and fueling the persistence you need to win. So how does one cultivate the powerful force of positive expectation? It begins with language. Words are not mere sounds. They are the first builders of reality. Never again say "if I succeed." Say "when I succeed." Remove doubt from your speech as carefully as you would remove poison from your food. Start each day with a calm, firm declaration. Good things are coming my way. I am ready to receive them. I am prepared for success. But let this be clear, words alone are not enough. Your actions must align with your expectations. A man cannot expect wealth while spending recklessly, nor can he expect respect while speaking carelessly or acting dishonorably. Actions must reflect beliefs. Expectation without aligned action is nothing more than empty wishing. But when expectation is joined with right action, it becomes a force so powerful that few ever truly test its limits. Perhaps its greatest gift is how it fuels persistence. When a man truly expects a good outcome, he does not collapse at the first obstacle or retreat at the first sign of resistance. He understands setbacks are temporary, mountains are meant to be climbed, and challenges are tests of resolve. He does not ask, "Will I succeed?" but instead, "How soon will success come?" So I leave you with this final charge. Hold fast to your faith. Expect the best, not as a fragile hope, but as unwavering certainty. Look around you, even now, and see that the seeds of your expectations are already taking root. Water them with your words. Nourish them with your actions. Guard them against the weeds of doubt and the pests of fear. Life is no lottery. It is a mirror, reflecting not your wishes, but your expectations. Hold to the best, and the best will surely be yours. And this brings us to one of the greatest forces in human achievement, self-confidence. It is an invisible fortress, an inner stronghold from which all success flows. Without it, the finest plans falter, ambitions collapse, and brilliant talents go unrealized. But with it, mountains move, doors open, and obstacles dissolve before your determined gaze. Self-confidence is the bedrock of greatness. Yet it is vital to understand, it is not arrogance. It is not boastfulness or the loud declarations of the insecure. Confidence does not shout or demand attention. It is the quiet, steady belief that you are equal to the task before you. It is the deep inner knowing that the strength of your mind, the power of your will, and the resilience of your spirit are more than enough to face life's challenges. True confidence is neither blind optimism nor reckless pride. It is certainty grounded in discipline, effort, and the truth of your own capabilities. I have sat across from many men whose trembling hands and nervous eyes betrayed their doubt. Their voices carried the weight of uncertainty as they whispered their ambitions. "Mr. Hill," they would ask, almost in desperation, "how can I possibly succeed when doubt plagues me so deeply?" My answer never changed. Simple, absolute, you cannot. Not until you first believe that you can. Confidence is not the result of success, it is the cause of it. Yet so many misunderstand this truth. They wait for the world to hand them confidence, for the first applause, the first dollar, the first compliment, thinking external approval will spark belief. But that is not how life works. Confidence must come first. It is the catalyst that sets every process in motion. Without it, the first step is never taken, the first victory never won. So how is this mighty force built? Not by luck or chance, and not conjured from thin air. It is built through small, daily victories, by consistently keeping the promises you make to yourself. When a man declares, "I shall rise at dawn," and honors that promise, he grows stronger. When he says, "I will finish this task today," and follows through despite fatigue or distraction, another brick is laid in the fortress of his self-belief. Every completed commitment, every disciplined act, no matter how small, adds to the foundation of confidence. Over time, it transforms a timid man into a formidable one. But the opposite is just as true. Each broken promise weakens that foundation. Every, "I'll start tomorrow," whispered but not kept is recorded by the subconscious. Procrastination, excuses, and retreat quietly erode trust in yourself until the mind no longer believes in your strength, but in your patterns of surrender. I recall the story of a young woman, nearly invisible to the world, timid and overlooked, yet carrying within her a daring dream, to become a great speaker, one whose voice could move hearts and stir change. The world offered her no invitations, no encouragement. So she began alone. Each day she stood before an imaginary audience, practicing her words, picturing faces leaning forward, hands clapping, lives touched by her voice. With time, her tone grew stronger, her posture straighter, her belief unshakable. And when the opportunity finally arrived, she stood before 1,000 souls. Her voice flowed like a river, steady and moving, bringing the crowd to both tears and action. She did not wait for the world to give her confidence. She built it within herself. The formula is simple yet powerful. Affirm your strength, act in harmony with it, and repeat without fail. Each morning, stand before the mirror and speak not as who you are, but as who you are becoming. Declare with conviction, "I am capable. I am prepared. I am destined to succeed." These are not empty words when paired with consistent action. They are commands to your subconscious, and your mind will obey. Do not allow the voices of doubt, whether from others or from the hidden corners of your own mind, to silence the truth of your potential. When you hold yourself as worthy, capable, and destined for greatness, the world will reflect that belief back to you. People naturally respond to confidence with trust, respect, and opportunity. They sense when a man truly believes in himself, and they are drawn to that energy as surely as a ship to a lighthouse in a storm. Remember this always. The world will treat you as you treat yourself. Walk with the posture of one who expects success. Speak with the weight of certainty. Move through life knowing that within you lies every tool, every strength, every resource required to fulfill your purpose. Self-confidence is not just a trait. It is the foundation on which every dream is built, every fortune created, and every legacy forged. And the most empowering truth of all is this: it is entirely within your power to create it. Guard your mind as you would guard your life. For one of the greatest tragedies I have witnessed is how carelessly men treat their own thinking. They drift through life accepting opinions as facts, swallowing gossip as if it were gospel, and mistaking assumptions for truth. In doing so, they build their lives on sand, fragile, unstable, and certain to collapse when the winds of adversity rise. It is no exaggeration to say that countless ambitions have perished not because the world was cruel, but because the men who carried them failed to think clearly and accurately. True success does not belong to the lucky or even the most talented. It belongs to the one who cultivates accurate thinking. This kind of thinking is rooted in reality, anchored in truth, and grounded in evidence. It is not distorted by fear, warped by superstition, or clouded by hearsay. It is the ability to separate fact from assumption, probability from imagination. I vividly recall a businessman who once came to me trembling with anxiety. He had heard whispers of an economic downturn and, convinced of disaster, was ready to close his shop, dismiss his employees, and retreat to safety. His fear was so real to him. Yet when I asked the simplest question, "Have you verified this? Have you examined the numbers yourself?" he looked at me as though the idea had never crossed his mind. And indeed, it had not. Upon investigation, the truth was clear. The rumors were baseless. Far from collapsing, his market was actually expanding. His fear had been nothing more than an illusion, a phantom born of careless, unchecked thinking. This was no isolated case. The hard truth is that most failures in life do not come from real obstacles, but from faulty thinking. False assumptions, unexamined fears, and baseless conclusions have destroyed more dreams than all the world's difficulties combined. A man may believe he cannot succeed because others say the field is too competitive, never questioning whether those critics ever even tried. Another convinces himself he will fail simply because he fears failure, not because there is any real evidence to prove it. This paralysis of fear, born of inaccurate thinking, quietly sabotages effort before it ever begins. If a man wishes to rise above it, to harness his potential and shape his destiny, he must develop the discipline of accurate thinking. He must become a relentless examiner of the thoughts that enter his mind. When that inner voice whispers, "I can't do this," the response must be firm and immediate. Is this true? Where is the evidence? Or is this only fear pretending to be fact? When someone declares, "It's impossible," the thinking man does not shrink back. Instead, he asks, by whose authority? Based on what proof? Or is this simply the echo of another man's defeat? Accurate thinking does not thrive in isolation. It is shaped by the company you keep. Surround yourself with thinkers who question, who demand clarity, who seek truth. Avoid the gossips, complainers, and merchants of doom who spread fear like wildfire. They are termites of the mind, eating away at judgment until the entire structure collapses. Instead, seek the companionship of those who value truth and speak with precision, who never confuse opinion with fact. There is a reason every great man, every industrial titan, statesman, and innovator surrounds himself with advisors, accountants, legal experts, and engineers. Not because he doubts his intelligence, but because he respects the power of accurate thinking. He understood that assumptions have no place in the architecture of success. Every conclusion must be tested, every belief weighed against facts. I recall a man once gripped by fear that competition would destroy his business. Night after night, he lay awake, haunted by visions of bankruptcy and ruin. But when urged to investigate, he discovered a very different truth. His competitors' customers were frustrated, disappointed with poor service, and searching for an alternative. What he had viewed as a looming threat was in fact a golden opportunity. By shifting from fear-based assumptions to fact-based thinking, he turned anxiety into decisive action, and that action into prosperity. That is the power of accurate thinking. It transforms obstacles into opportunities the moment clarity replaces confusion. And its influence reaches further than success alone. It is the foundation of integrity. When your mind is clear, you judge fairly, act wisely, and make choices that are not only effective but just. You build relationships grounded in truth, and those bonds become the scaffolding of a reputation stronger than any amount of capital or cleverness. Never forget this: reputation, once stained by reckless thinking or dishonest action, is a currency almost impossible to restore. Guard your mind like a fortress. Allow no falsehood past its gates, no unchecked fear into its halls. Demand accuracy from yourself with the same rigor an architect demands precise measurements before laying the foundation of a great building. A single error in the blueprint, a careless assumption, a lazy conclusion, or an unfounded fear may seem small in the moment, but can lead to collapse in the end. Imagine a builder who lays stone without measuring, trusting guesses and hearsay. The structure may rise, but the first strong wind will bring it down. A man of destiny knows his thoughts are the blueprints of his life. Just as a builder checks every angle, every weight, every detail, so must the man who seeks success examine every thought before acting. Make this your standard. Measure your thoughts, test them, demand truth. Do not let idle gossip or whispered doubts dictate your future. For as surely as the sun rises, the man who builds on the solid rock of accurate thinking becomes steady, unshakable, and destined for greatness. This leads us to the law of compensation. You reap exactly what you sow. It is absolute, as unchanging as gravity itself, governing the flow of wealth, success, and opportunity everywhere. The principle is simple yet profound. You are compensated in direct proportion to the value you provide to others. There are no exceptions, no favoritism. It does not care about your background, your intentions, or how desperately you long for success. It cares only for this: what service are you rendering, and how excellent is that service? This law is not cruel or kind. It is fair. It rewards those who honor it, and penalizes those who ignore it. You may wish for wealth. You may hope for success. But unless you are actively engaged in offering real, valuable service, you are waiting for a harvest in a field where no seed has been sown. And everywhere you look, this truth reveals itself. The man who offers little value to the world is often the loudest in his complaints. He rails against unfairness, the economy, and circumstances, convincing himself that life is conspiring against him. Yet he never pauses to realize that his reward is perfectly aligned with the value he has chosen to give. Meanwhile, the man who asks daily, "How can I serve more? How can I solve greater problems? How can I improve the lives of others?" This man finds that reward does not need to be chased. It chases him. I'm reminded of a cobbler I once knew in a small, unremarkable town. His shop was modest, nestled between larger, flashier stores. His shoes were never the cheapest, and he never tried to compete on price. Instead, he competed on quality. Every stitch, every sole, every repair was done with precision and care. He knew his customers by name, listened to their needs, and remembered their preferences. When a pair of shoes came into his hands, it wasn't just footwear, it was a trust to be honored. Over the years, his humble shop grew. His sons joined the trade. His reputation spread beyond the town into neighboring counties. His name became synonymous with craftsmanship and integrity, and with reputation came prosperity. His wealth grew not because he chased money, but because he pursued excellence in service. This is the truth so many overlook. The world owes you nothing. Not a dime, not an opportunity, not even a favor. Yet it will reward you generously, often beyond imagination, in direct proportion to the problems you solve, the comfort you bring, and the quality you deliver. It makes no difference whether you are a cobbler, a merchant, a teacher, a laborer, or the head of a vast enterprise. This law operates in every field, at every level. Consider the farmer. He does not walk into an empty field in spring, plant nothing, and demand a harvest in autumn. Nature mocks such folly. And yet how many men live this way? Expecting prosperity, opportunity, and respect, while offering nothing but excuses, complaints, laziness, and mediocrity? They wander bitter and confused, asking, "Why does nothing good happen for me?" Never realizing the simple truth, they have given nothing of real value in return. The man who understands this law rises each day with a single focus. How can I become more valuable? How can I refine my skills, render better service, improve my product, or make my teaching more impactful? He knows that excellence not only increases compensation, it secures it. Compensation does not always come in the form you expect, nor on the timeline you desire. At times, it arrives as an opportunity, an introduction, an offer, or an unexpected opening. Sometimes it appears as knowledge, a discovery, or a skill that changes everything. Other times, it comes through relationships, alliances that seem minor at first, but later bear fruit in ways no one could have imagined. But come it will, the law never forgets, and it never fails. I have seen men dedicate themselves to service for years without visible reward, mocked by peers for working harder than their pay seemed to justify. Then suddenly, a door opened, a contract was signed, an idea proved profitable. What looked like overnight success was, in truth, the compound interest of years spent sowing value into others. Their rewards came not by luck or favor, but by the relentless certainty of a law that cannot be cheated, hurried, or denied. Understand this well. Your rewards are always a mirror of your service. If you seek wealth, provide greater value. If you seek respect, live with integrity and contribution that demands it. If you seek opportunity, become the kind of person to whom opportunity naturally gravitates. Increase both the quality and quantity of your service and compensation, whether in money, influence, reputation, or fulfillment, must follow. It is never a question of if, only of when. This is the great equalizer. It does not care where you were born, what family you came from, or what hardships marked your past. The only question it ever asks is simple: what service are you rendering, and how excellent is it? Answer that with your life, and the world will unfailingly answer back with reward. Failure, my friend, is not your enemy. It is not the dark shadow standing in opposition to success, but the stern and faithful teacher life appoints to every man who dares to rise above the ordinary. It is the schoolmaster of greatness, the instructor whose lessons may be harsh, yet always indispensable. No man has ever walked the path of success without first passing through the gates of failure. Behind every triumph, every great accomplishment, lies a trail of setbacks, missteps, and disappointments that serve not as barriers, but as building blocks. There is no success story in this world untouched by failure. Every fortune built, every invention crafted, every masterpiece created was preceded by moments of defeat, doubt, and collapse. The ones who ultimately succeed are not those who avoid failure, but those who understand its purpose. The man who fears failure, who trembles at the thought of getting it wrong, lives small. He dares little, risks nothing, and achieves nothing. His life becomes a quiet surrender, a retreat from the very experiences meant to forge him into something greater. Now, contrast him with the man who sees failure for what it truly is: a messenger, a mentor, a necessary part of the process. This man does not seek failure for its own sake, nor does he relish its sting, but he embraces its arrival, knowing that within its discomfort lies the wisdom success demands. Failure is not about pain, it is about perspective. It delivers lessons no book can teach, no speech can impart, and no secondhand story can fully convey. It is a curriculum designed uniquely for you. Failure is designed to strengthen what is weak, refine what is rough, and sharpen what is dull. I recall a young inventor whose story is etched in my mind. Bright, eager, and full of ambition, he set out to create something revolutionary. His first invention failed. So did the second, the third, and the fourth. The fifth drained his finances and nearly destroyed his reputation. Any reasonable man might have taken these defeats as a clear signal to quit, to surrender, to believe he was not meant for success. But this young man saw something different. With each failure, he examined his mistakes, adjusted his approach, and refined his ideas. On his sixth attempt, he not only succeeded but changed the world. His solution was so profound that his name became synonymous with innovation, and his fortune was secured. Later, he admitted something remarkable. Had his first idea succeeded, it would have ruined him. He was not yet the man capable of handling success. His failures were not punishments. They were preparation. You must understand this truth. Failure does not say, "Stop." It says, "Learn." It does not declare, "You are not good enough." Instead, it asks, "Are you committed? Are you ready to refine, adapt, and grow into the person capable of holding the success you seek?" Failure is not a verdict. It is a question, a challenge meant not to discourage you, but to test your resolve and your willingness to evolve. Think of the child learning to walk. He does not condemn himself when he falls, nor decide walking is beyond him simply because the first or even the 10th attempt ends in a stumble. No, he rises, tries again and again, until walking becomes second nature and the memory of falling fades away. The process that feels so natural in childhood is often forgotten in adulthood. Fear of looking foolish, of failing, of not getting it right the first time, keeps many trapped in hesitation. Yet failure, when seen correctly, is one of the most honest mirrors you'll ever face. It reveals weaknesses, exposes false assumptions, highlights flawed strategies, and shows where strength must be built. It strips away illusion and forces clarity. Failure does not arrive to bury you. It comes to elevate you, if you are willing to climb. There is only one true failure, and it is not falling short. The only real failure is failing to learn. The man who tries, fails, learns, and tries again is steadily marching toward success. No matter how often the world knocks him down, each fall is another lesson, another refinement, another step forward. But the man who quits after failing has already chosen defeat. In surrender, he declares the discomfort of learning is more than he is willing to bear, and in that moment, failure becomes permanent. So when failure visits, and it will, do not curse it or deny it. Welcome it as you would a strict but fair teacher. Study it. Ask, what is this here to teach me? What truth have I ignored? What strength must I build? Refuse to leave the classroom of failure without its lesson. Then rise, stronger, wiser, and better prepared. For success is not given to the man who avoids failure. It belongs to the one shaped by it, the one who sees failure not as a tombstone, but as a stepping stone. It is not the end of the road, but the bridge that leads to mastery. And when you rise from failure's embrace, you carry not just the hope of success, but the certainty that you have become worthy of it. The unseen power of desire is the true starting point of all achievement. Nothing begins without it. Desire is the spark, the vital seed from which every success grows. It fuels empires, drives revolutions, inspires masterpieces, and helps men overcome challenges that would crush weaker spirits. Without desire, there is no motion, no momentum, no forward thrust. A man without it drifts like a ship without wind, carried aimlessly by circumstance. Weak desires bring weak results. Life responds not to passing wishes or idle hopes, but to the strength and intensity of true desire. The man who only toys with the thought of success will find the world unmoved. But the one whose desire is so fierce it consumes his thoughts, stirs his emotions, and becomes the focus of his existence. He becomes unstoppable. His desire bends obstacles, aligns circumstances, and pulls opportunity into his orbit like iron filings to a magnet. Behind every story of greatness, you will always find a burning, relentless desire. It is never luck or accident. Take Andrew Carnegie. His pursuit was not only for wealth, but for mastery of an industry and later the chance to give back to society. His desire, clear and unwavering, carried him from modest beginnings to unimaginable heights. Think also of Thomas Edison. His contributions were so immense that modern life can scarcely be imagined without them. Edison was not dabbling with the idea of electric light. He was possessed by the desire to illuminate the world, to chase darkness from every home and every street. When faced with failure not once, not twice, but over 10,000 times, he never faltered. His burning desire gave him the strength to rise after each setback, to treat it as another experiment, and to press on until success was no longer just possible, it was inevitable. Desire is not mere wishing. It is not idle longing or the fleeting thought of wouldn't it be nice. True desire is a white-hot obsession. It lives in the mind day and night, refusing to be ignored. It weaves into every thought, every action, every decision, until the goal becomes as essential as the very air you breathe. At that point, desire shifts from something external, a hope for the future, into something internal, already owned in spirit long before the world reflects it. The tragedy is that most people never move beyond lukewarm desires. They flirt with dreams of success, wealth, or freedom, but never commit. Their own language betrays them. They say, "It would be nice if I could start a business," or "Maybe one day I'll write that book." But desire framed as a vague wish holds no power. The universe does not respond to maybe. It responds to certainty. I will have this. I must have this. Nothing will stop me. So how does one cultivate such burning, unshakable desire? It begins with clarity. The goal must be definite. A half-formed goal is already half dead. Vague ambition produces vague results. Write it down, not just once, but as often as needed. Let the ink become a contract between your conscious mind and your deepest self. Then, visualize it. Picture the goal so vividly that you see yourself living it. Let the image feel so real that your subconscious cannot tell the difference. Speak it aloud. Affirm it every single day. Let your voice carry the conviction of your intention until your own ears believe it more than your doubts ever could. Surround yourself with reminders, photos, words, symbols that keep your goal alive before you. Your environment must fuel your desire, not weaken it. Once desire is cultivated to a burning point, it holds a power that feels almost miraculous. It transforms what once seemed impossible into what becomes inevitable. It strengthens a weary body when the road is long. It lends courage when doubt whispers from the shadows. It breathes persistence into your bones when life throws obstacle after obstacle in your path. With burning desire, failure is only temporary. Delay becomes an irritation, not defeat. Every setback turns into a lesson, a stepping stone on the path to fulfillment. Without desire, no plan, no matter how perfect, can endure. Without it, discipline falters, focus weakens, and commitment dissolves at the first sign of resistance. But when desire burns brightly within, no obstacle can withstand it. Plans may shift, methods may change, but the outcome remains certain because the fire inside does not allow surrender. Desire is the true beginning of greatness. It is the pulse that sparks every endeavor, the force that carries it forward, and the anchor that holds steady in the storm. The man who desires with intensity, clarity, and unwavering commitment cannot be denied. The world, whether willing or reluctant, must eventually make way for him. Understand this with all the depth your heart can hold. If your desire is weak, life will hand you only crumbs. But if you desire with the full force of your mind and spirit, prepare yourself, for life will yield abundance. You'll see that barriers were only illusions, that impossible was just a word for the uninspired, and that the life you once dreamed of begins with one profound truth: nothing begins without desire. Yet desire alone is not enough. Thoughts are powerful, but action is king. Without action, even the strongest desires, the firmest beliefs, and the most vivid imagination are nothing more than dust in the wind. Beautiful perhaps, but useless until they are given shape through movement. The bridge between dreams and reality is not built on intention alone. It is laid plank by plank with consistent action. The world is filled with the graves of unfulfilled plans and unrealized dreams. Countless brilliant ideas, strategies, and blueprints lie buried in the minds of those who never found the courage to begin. Ideas are as common as the air we breathe. The streets echo with voices saying, "I should start a business. One day I'll write that book. I have $1 million idea." But the number of those who transform words into deeds is painfully small. The man who acts, imperfectly, clumsily, even foolishly, will always outperform the one who plans endlessly but never takes the first step. I once knew a merchant whose dream was to open a storefront in the heart of his town. He was meticulous. For 5 years, he refined his plans, designed every detail, calculated every risk, and imagined every outcome. On paper, everything was flawless, but perfection became his prison. Each time he neared the threshold of starting, he found one more flaw to fix, one more uncertainty to solve. Meanwhile, another man, with half the knowledge and far less caution, decided to act. His plans were simple, his experience modest, but his willingness to begin was absolute. He opened his doors, customers came, mistakes were made, adjustments followed, and in time his business prospered. Why? Because he acted while the other man only prepared. Action is the great clarifier. What seems complex in theory often becomes simple in practice. The questions that paralyze planners are often answered within hours of doing the work. By acting, you leave the world of guessing and enter the world of knowing. What works? What doesn't? What must be adjusted? These answers don't come from endless contemplation. They come when your hands are dirty, your feet are moving, and your mind is engaged in real effort. And beyond clarity, action is magnetic. A man in motion attracts resources, ideas, allies, and opportunities that remain hidden from those who wait. People are drawn to momentum. Investors back those already building. Helpers step forward for those already climbing. Customers buy from those already selling. Fortune favors not only the bold, but the busy, the doers. Nature itself proves this law. A river does not wait for the perfect course to appear. It doesn't sit atop the mountain debating which path is best. It begins. It flows. And when it meets obstacles, it carves through them, rises above them, or bends around them. The path exists only because the water moves. So it must be with you. Waiting for the perfect time, flawless plan, or ideal conditions is the habit of those content to stand on the sidelines. The man who wins understands that the road reveals itself only as he walks it. Perfection is never the requirement for starting. It is the result of trying, learning, adjusting, and refining along the way. Your first effort will not be perfect. Accept it, even welcome it. Let those early flaws teach you, guide you, and shape your direction forward. For no great success ever appeared fully formed. Every triumph in history was carved into existence by relentless action. Understand this clearly. Life does not reward the man with the biggest dreams. It rewards the one who moves. Thought is the spark, belief is the fuel, but action is the engine. It transforms the unseen into the seen, the imagined into the real. A mind filled with vision, but lacking motion, is nothing more than wasted potential. Wherever you stand now, at the beginning of a dream, at the edge of a decision, or in the midst of uncertainty, the answer is always the same. Start, move, act. Use what you have, right where you are. Let the path reveal itself as you go, and allow the lessons to guide you along the way. Thought may ignite and belief may empower, but only action brings transformation. Remember, the world reflects the thoughts you hold most often. Focus on fear, and fear will grow. Focus on growth, abundance, and possibility, and life will open doors you never imagined. This is not magic. It is the natural law quietly shaping every outcome in your life. Guard your mind and choose your thoughts carefully, for the truth remains simple. What you focus on, you attract. The choice is yours. What future will you plant today? I wish you health, happiness, and fulfillment. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel, Mindset Daily.